Hi, I'm Sarah Williams, and I have my wonderful, fabulous friend Pam Macchio with me today. And we're going to do something a little bit different today. Pam and I are going to just have a conversation. We are at Flanders Morrison Funeral Home, and it's a beautiful building.
It is.
It's a beautiful building. I think some people are afraid to come in a funeral home, but this is a very welcoming
It
place.
is. Very
And
peaceful.
Very, very peaceful. And we're going to talk today just about Flanders Morrison Funeral Home and why it's so wonderful. So, and you have had a lot of loss in the last
Yes, I have.
couple of years. And so you've dealt with funeral homes outside of North Bryan, and then
Yes.
you've dealt with Flanders here in North Bryan. And then, of course, I lost my mother in April, and so I dealt with Flanders and also with my grandparents a while back. So, how would you compare Flanders to other funeral homes that you had worked with in the past?
Flanders is like family. When you walk in the door, you feel like you're just visiting one of your own family members. They are the most comforting, peaceful people to work with I've ever known. They guide you through all the process without really, you don't even feel like you're moving along in the process. Things are just handled, things are taken care of. The compassion is just, it's overwhelming how much compassion and caring they have.
You know, my uncle died in the last couple of weeks, and I went up to North Carolina, and I looked at my dad and my husband, and I said, wow, we are so blessed to have
Absolutely.
Tommy Flanders where we are, because the people did a good job, the funeral home did a good job, but it had a whole different feel to it than when I was here with my
Absolutely.
mother and my grandparents. I mean, totally different feel. I mean, because like you said, they're like your family and your
They are.
friends, and they're right there with you the entire, time to make
Mhm.
sure that you're okay. And I just felt like in North Carolina it was a lot more corporate, I guess. I mean,
Yes.
it just like a corporate feeling to it. We're doing this, 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 and this, and there wasn't that personal touch.
Right.
Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And, with my dad, I did pre plan because Daddy was almost 94. So we expected. And they just were so comforting to me to help me understand what I needed to do, what was a good thing to do, what you didn't have to do. And then with Michael, it was so unexpected. I don't think I realized really what happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think they took care of most everything with my daughters
Mm-hmm.
because I was,
Mhm.
so unprepared.
Right, because Michael was your husband and just had a heart attack
Heart
one day
attack.
and died,
Right.
within hours. And so,
Yes.
your daughters were able to come in and get a lot of that done.
Yes.
And then, for my mother, and I've talked about this on television before, we pre-plan that. And, I think pre-planning is a great thing because, I came in and I picked out the caskets for my mom and dad. And I told Tommy, I said, that really wasn't that bad. And Tommy said, well, if you were coming in and this had just happened, or if it was one of your children, it would be devastating. And I started crying, and I said, I don't think I could do this for one of my children. So Tommy and I went back into the casket room, because there's a whole room and it has caskets and everything that you
Yes.
can look at. And I picked out what I would want for my children, which I hope I
Right.
never ever have to be the one to pick that out, and for my husband and for me, so that my children don't have to do that. So
Right.
if I were to die this afternoon, my children don't have to worry about, what casket to pick out, And then Tommy and Audie up here, they also have all the information as far as like my name, my birthday,
Right.
all of that kind of thing too, so that my children aren't trying to scramble, to find those kinds of things. So, that was very comforting. And then afterwards, they helped you with the obituary. They helped you, Tommy said, do you want the glasses on or off? We can try it both ways on my mother.
Right.
And we ultimately decided on them on. And then, do we want an open casket or a closed casket?
Right.
And you can make those decisions when you come. But and now we are working on the tombstone and then the slab. And Tommy said, let's don't make any immediate decisions.
Right.
Let's give it some time. And I'm so glad he did, because I think we finally came up with the perfect thing, for my mom's slab. But if I had done it the next day, I don't know that it would have been
No.
what I thought was perfect.
Because you're not always thinking at that time. And I know previously experiencing funerals, it was more or less like, this is what we have to offer, you just go decide what you want. And particularly when you're not expecting it, you don't know what you're deciding. Those are a lot of decisions to make when you're, under such stress. So when somebody is there to help you, to guide you, to give you suggestions, it means so much. And I know my youngest daughter wanted the bagpipes for Michael, and I know they had a problem getting those, but they did. And it really was something I think would have pleased him.
It was beautiful, and something that's really interesting is I didn't even realize until later that you had Mike cremated.
Right.
And because you actually had the casket up front
Right.
with the flag over it, to honor him. And then afterwards, Tommy, gave you the ashes. And I don't even know if you know this, Miss Pam, but they're actually going to have their own crematorium here. So they will
Yes.
no longer, have to send out, a body, to Savannah or somewhere else. They'll actually be able to do it right here, which is,
Yeah.
I think, very comforting to a lot of people.
Well, I had always wanted to be cremated, but Michael never expressed a desire. And, we always just thought, well, it's just not going to happen
Right.
to us. And so when Michael did pass away, then, we were discussing it. And one of the reasons that I did opt to have him cremated was because he was from New York, and I'm his only family here. And, when I pass, then there won't be any family here for us. So I opted to have him cremated so that I could keep him with me. And those are decisions that are hard to make.
And so, and I think so much of the time, too, we do have a hard time thinking that it's going to happen to us.
We never think it's going to happen to us.
We don't think it's going to happen to us. And,
No.
And you never know. And so, I love Tommy Flanders. I love Audie. I mean, I love
Yeah.
Ernie, all of the people up here. From the time that I called and they came out to the house and, they showed up at that house. I mean, and they just treated the family with just so much love. And my mother's, because my mother died at home, under hospice care, and I was with her. And when they came out to get my mom, they were just so classy and treated my mother with so much respect and treated the family with so much respect. And they were just there for us, And I mean, even today, Tom was like, if you need anything, let me know. If you need anything, let me know.
Anything you need, I feel like you could walk in the door or pick up the phone and say, hey, and they would be there. Michael died technically on the way to the hospital. And when I got to the hospital, it took quite a while before they sort of were going to release the body. And Audie made sure he called me on the way home to let me know he had Michael. And he was bringing him home.
So
Which meant
just-
a lot to me, to know he was picked up.
They're great people. They're
They
great
are.
people. And really here in North Bryan County, I think that we're so blessed and so fortunate because I don't really think that there's anyone like these
No.
folks here, anywhere
Absolutely.
around. So, consider it. I think that it's a really smart thing to think about pre-planning a funeral, even if you're, my age. Like I said,
You never know.
I've got all my information together, like I said, for an obituary. Same thing for my husband. I haven't written it, but but it's just there.
Right.
Just the technical information, and just coming in and having a file that just says, if I die, this is the casket I want. That sort of thing, so that your family doesn't have to go through that. Make sure that you have some sort of insurance policy, and they can help you here with that, so that your family, is not scrambling,
Right.
trying to find money for this. And you can get an insurance policy for not very much per
Right.
month. And but consider doing that for your family. And if something should happen, in your family in the next, little bit, get on the phone and call here. I mean, I just
Absolutely.
think that they can make a difficult situation a whole lot easier.
They do. They do. They make it so much easier. And it doesn't end when the funeral's over.
No, it keeps going. So I'm learning that.
It keeps going, and they still will be in contact with you and follow up and check on you. And I just don't think you get that in these corporate funeral homes that we
Right.
have.
I agree. So, thank you, Pam, for
Thank
sharing your
you.
heart with us today. And I liked your dad a lot. I didn't know him really well, but I
Yeah.
loved your husband, and we love my mom, and I wouldn't have wanted them anywhere else.
Oh, no,
So,
absolutely.
thank you.
You're welcome.